Kamala Harris did a town hall with Liz Cheney, and before it started, as the moderator, Maria Shriver, was doing her introduction, she was asked by an audience member if they were going to be able to ask Harris and Cheney any questions, which I am going to show you first here real quick for some context. Remember, this is a town hall. It's supposed to be spontaneous, people gathering together to ask questions to a candidate in a less formal conversation format. Listen to this.
We have some questions from the audience that we will get to. I have a few questions. As I said, I went around to meet several of you, and I heard some questions that some of you had. But universally, many of you said the reason I'm here is to see bipartisanship. I want to see what it looks like so I can go home with information. So you're going to get that. Okay? So let's get going. So sit back, be comfortable. You're not, unfortunately. We have some predetermined questions, and hopefully I'll be able to ask some of the questions that might be in your head. I hope so.
I hope so. I can think of the questions in your head. No spontaneous questions, you silly. Did you think this was a town hall? Everyone in the audience that will be asking questions are predetermined. Remember, pre-chosen, pre-selected. Remember this for what you're about to see in a minute. Okay, literally then a minute later, after she introduces Harris and Cheney, she says this. Listen.
Okay, here we go. Sit back. We got 40 minutes and we're going to move quick. Okay? So I want this to be like a kitchen table. Like, just think that we're sitting around the kitchen table and we're jamming about all kinds of stuff. That's the feeling I want to have at this.
This is like a Kennedy family kitchen table. Yeah. Most people don't have this many.
That's right. It's raucous. It's hot, but it's fun. That's what it's going to be like.
Okay, so as you can see, they're pretending that this is a non-formal, spontaneous town hall event, yet it's not. It's fake. It's scripted. It's predetermined because Kamala Harris does not have the ability to do otherwise, as evident here. This is a question that is pivotal for a presidential candidate to be able to answer. If there is anything that a president is most responsible for, it's to keep America safe against our enemies. This is what Kamala Harris is asked here. And listen to this bumbling response.
Martin Hawryluk, he's a former Republican member of the Michigan House of Representatives, and he's here with a question about national security.
Thank both of you for being here this afternoon. I really appreciate your coming to the state of Michigan to be here. I would like to ask, what can the U.S. do politically, economically, or militarily to deter Russia from continuing its war on the independent nation of Ukraine while simultaneously strengthening our own U.S. security interests?
Thank you, Martin. Sadly, there is a huge difference between my opponent and me on this very fundamental issue. Back to the conversation about, there was a time when there was a phrase that I'll paraphrase that basically politics ends at the sea line, at the boundaries of our country, that there are certain things, in particular matters of national security, where it's not about partisanship, it's about where should America stand in terms of supporting our allies and standing for certain principles. I'll give you as a point of reference for me in terms of how I feel about this on the partisan issue. For the 4 years that I was in the United States Senate, my favorite committee was the Senate Intelligence Committee. And I served on that committee, and we would meet in a room that's called a SCIF, and it's basically it's a very secure room. No press, with all due respect, is allowed in, no cameras. Everyone has to leave their cell phone outside. It's a bipartisan committee, and we would go in that room and receive classified information from America's intelligence community, sometimes our military leaders, about hotspots around the world and threats to our national security. And when we went in that room, and this is why it was my favorite committee, people would take off their suit jacket, roll up their sleeves, have a cup of coffee on the table. And we weren't Democrats or Republicans. We were Americans. And that is so important on a number of issues we are discussing this afternoon, but in particular on national security. My opponent, however, has made it a thing of his to admire dictators and autocrats around the world. He exchanged love letters with Kim Jong-un, remember that? He has openly praised the president of Russia. Most recently, the report is in the height of COVID. Remember, everyone was scrambling to get their hands on COVID tests? Remember when Americans were dying by the hundreds every day, and Donald Trump secretly sent COVID tests to the president of Russia for his personal use? He has said, Donald Trump, I will solve the matter of Ukraine and Russia in a day. You know, read through and understand what he is saying. He would surrender. He would have Ukraine surrender its fight against an aggressor, violating its sovereignty. If Donald Trump were president, Vladimir Putin will be sitting in Kyiv, and understand what that would mean for America and our standing around the world. But thankfully, there has been bipartisan support, and to your point of where you stand on this very fundamental issue. But this is a very vivid example of what is at stake in this election, because Donald Trump has been very clear. He would give away the shop. He has been manipulated and is so clearly able to be manipulated by favor and flattery, including from dictators and autocrats around the world. And America knows that that is not how we stand. That is not how we fight. We fight in favor of our strength and our role as a leader in bringing the allies together and standing for foundational and fundamental principles.
Congressman Cheney.
Let me remind you that the question that she was asked was, what can the U.S. do to deter Russia and protect American security interests? Kamala Harris just explained that she knows what a skiff is and that she likes to drink coffee with her friends in it. This is disqualifying. And here's the thing. Donald Trump has a track record of keeping America safe and being strong on foreign policy, despite the lies that she is spewing out of her mouth here. And any American with common sense knows it. Remember, this was a predetermined question, and this is how she chose to answer it. This woman is not qualified to be president of the United States. This is a train wreck.